How is everybody doing today? So good to see you guys. It's another Tuesday because my magnificent mug is right here in front of you right now. Let's hop on Facebook and make sure that all y'all can see me. And not even just see me. Who gives a shit about that? It's about my guests. That's the most important part. Let's edit that privacy. Perfect. Okay. So please comment, share, like, do all that crazy shit so I know that you're there and so the guests know that you're there so we can talk about some cool stuff. We've got some guys today from a book called Superior Sam Presents. It looks like a children's book to me, or an all ages book at the very least. We're going to find out together. But it's a group of really cool dudes, including two guys who are part of a great podcast that if you're a creator, you need to check out, called Constructing Comics. My wife and I were on it recently, and I was like, hey, do you guys have anything coming up? And they're like, yeah, we do. And I was like, great. Well, you helped us out. Turn around is fair play. Why don't you guys come on the show? So that's what's going on. We get to talk to them and have a good time and whatnot. Excuse me. Let me check Facebook one more time because I'm not seeing anybody there. And that is not normal for us. Usually we have at least one or two of you there. Okay. It looks like it's there. Looks like we're good. And okay, now we got some people filtering in. Like I said, comment, tell us you're there. I'm very excited about today's guest. We're going to have a great time. And some of the guests include someone who runs a comic book shop, two guys from the podcast. You know, we've got writer, publisher, letterer. So there's going to be all sorts of stuff to talk about, lots of stuff to ask questions about. I feel like you guys are going to learn an awful lot today. And we're going to hear about a really cool book. So you really can't do wrong. My boy Brian's there. What's up, Brian? My man, you know exactly what time it is. I think we got to get this bad boy started and have some fun. So without any other further ado, let's do this.
Canadian bacon is actually really good, and it's nothing like normal bacon, and it's better than ham, which you guys seem to call Canadian bacon. I'm very good at writing. I write very well. Yeah, it's Shop Talk.
Do some of your audience members like the word fuck? Cool. Then I'm going to keep saying fuck. Because I care.
How's it going, gents?
Good evening. Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome.
Hey, good evening.
Chris asked me before the show, he's like, what's the profanity level? And I was like, you're fine. Whatever you're about to say, you're fine. You'll, as soon as you've seen the opener, you'll get it. Facebook user, we don't know who you are. Feel free. I think there's if you link on StreamYard.com or something, it will allow us to see your name, or just let us know who you are. Guys, please go around the room. Let's start with, we'll go Chris, Matt, Noah. Let us know a little bit about Chris. Start by telling us a little bit about the project, and then tell us about you guys and what you've done.
So, yeah, my name's Chris Barcomb. I'm the writer and the creator of the Superior Sam Presents Everyone Needs a Home, currently on Kickstarter. The comic itself is an all-ages comic book series. It centers around a little boy named Superior Sam who's an amputee superhero without any superpowers. In this particular issue, Sam and the family are trying to help a bunch of displaced animals from a shelter fire try to find new homes. And then we've got Matt. Matt is the publisher of the book, and then we got Noah, who is the letterer on the book as well.
Yeah. Well, and Chris, what do you do on the book?
So I'm the writer and the creator. So I'm doing all the writing, I'm doing all the scripting, basically coming up with the concepts for each and every issue. This will be, when this one funds, this will be the 10th issue in the Superior Sam series of books.
So is this, how many books do you have out so far, Chris? Like what's your
out right now?
Of Superior Sam?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Oh, okay. So this isn't. Oh, all right. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to give you a little background on the series, I worked with one artist, Yarfe Azami from Indonesia. We did the first 7 issues together. He got a video game deal, so he left, and then Josh Nickerson picked up doing the art. He's done the art for issue number 8 and the Take a Knee special. The thing with Superior Sam is, though, I know I say like this will be the 10th issue when it funds. These are almost all standalone issues. They all cover a different topic, a little different theme. And because they're all ages, like I tried not to make them connected because I don't know what kid's going to get them. I'm a small printer, and now with, a small publisher, I don't know if you'll ever see me twice. So, we wanted you to not feel like you had to buy the next issue, so there's no cliffhangers, anything like that. Plus, you can go read them all online for free too. Webtoon, Tapas, they're all there. So, yeah, this is the 10th issue of the series.
That's really cool. And so, what for the rest of you guys, so that we can get you guys in here too? What excited you about this project?
So I'll go next. So Noah is the common link between us to make us all friends. Noah and I had been creative partners for a number of years, and then Noah moved to the same town as Chris, and they became friends. And through COVID and sort of the quarantine, we were doing podcasts, reviewing books, just exchanging text. When everybody got a new comic that they were excited about or a new piece of art, we were sharing it, and just all that kind of stuff. So Noah and I finished up the Mossvale book, and Noah's like, "Hey, I have an idea for the next thing that Ageless should do." And he's like, "I think we should do Superior Sam." And I knew Superior Sam because I had backed the previous Kickstarters. Chris had been on the podcast to talk about it. And I had this, friendly relationship with the two of them. And I knew that, hey, we can bring this book here and publish it. And, I'm kind of hoping that with some of the networking that I have, some of the work that Chris has done before, I can help him sort of expand the reach of Superior Sam and get it to some more people.
Sweet. Excellent. And Noah, what about for yourself?
Well, I got introduced to Chris because he worked at my local comic book shop in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And I think after talking to him for a bit, I got introduced to Superior Sam because you don't know Chris without knowing what's important to him, and what's important to him is, his backstory, which we'll have to get into. And that ties a lot into Superior Sam, which is a really cool book. And so learning about Superior Sam, I got to see another side of Chris that I thought was really cool, and really loved reading the books when he first came on the podcast to promote Superior Sam. Then he came on again to promote his new book in 2020, which was the last time he did a new Superior Sam book. So I really love the character, especially after reading his last book. I read it to my niece, who was 6 at the time, and it explained an issue with the way things are in such a really nice and respectful way for kids, but also just so for me, as someone who doesn't know, even with adults, sometimes how to explain things, just sort of was nice to have a comic that did it in a nice illustrative way. So I could be like, yeah, that's sort of how I see it. I just wish I could have said it that way when I was trying to explain it to my dad, And so it's even great that it's directed towards kids because, my niece, she's at that point now where she's 7 years old. She has questions about things. So having a comic like Superior Sam there to sort of tell a child in a respectful way that's not talking down to them how something works is pretty special. So
nice.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
And
the book.
That's pretty badass. So because I like that you brought it up, and this is something I do a lot anyways, Noah, is the origin stories. So I'd like to do the origin story, but Chris, we're going to leave you to last because apparently yours actually fits into the book. So that's perfect. So Noah, why don't we start with you? We'll go to Matt. So I would love to hear your origin stories as far as you as a fan and then you as a creator and how that kind of all fits in.
Yeah, I started off, I think I read comics growing up. It was very selective what I read, obviously. Like I wasn't avid, but I read comics growing up. And it wasn't until about the end of high school that I really got into comics and started going to like the local comic shop and getting a pull list. And I had done like some sequential art before that. I went to in high school, I had a very focused on like traditional art, kind of hoping I'd get into concept art originally. And but then I realized I really loved sequential art. And so in college, I went for graphic design, but when I could sort of do sequential art in college, I did it a lot. And about 6 years ago is when I started trying really hard to break into the industry. And, life gets in the way, things happen, plans change, and you meet new people, which is sort of what happened with Matt and Chris. Like, I met some cool people. My sort of, career now as a comics creator sort of pivoted towards lettering, which I don't mind. I really like it. Yeah, and I love doing the podcast, love meeting new people. It's great. Yeah.
What is it about lettering that, I mean, is it more just like it's been easier for you to get work that way, or is it you feel drawn to it and you really enjoy that aspect of comic creation?
It's not easier to get work for sure. I've just sort of I've been privileged with what work I have. Obviously, it's through knowing people like Matt for the most part, and now Chris. And my friend Travis, who I lettered Mossvale for him. It's not an easy job. I know that sounds like, it sounds like the bass player saying like, yeah, my job's really important. It's like, what? But at the same time, it's not, for someone like me, it's not an easy job because I don't just slap letters down,
Yeah.
I can't do that because I overthink everything. So I really do take the time to do it. And it really draws upon my graphic design background. And it's the one part of graphic design I really like. And that's choosing typefaces and things like that. And getting into things like spacing and leading and, making sure that the font itself matches the line of the artist and the word balloons match the line of the artist. That's something I really love. And I'm really enjoying getting better at. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Matt.
Okay, so mine can probably be told in three parts. Growing up, the G.I. Joe cartoon would have been a gateway drug for me. I'm old enough that I would have bought probably something in the late 40s or maybe early 50s on an issue number from a spinner rack, and then just sort of either went forward or backwards with stuff that looked cool. You might have picked up X-Men 266 or something, or it probably wasn't. I think that's maybe first Gambit, so I don't think I picked that up. But I would have picked up something, and like I had no problem going forward or backwards and just trying to figure out the story. As I would have gotten older, I would have discovered things that were different than comics, maybe sports and girls, and I sort of fell out of it for a little bit. But then later, sort of in life, I took a job that was a little bit more stressful, and I had become a dad for the first time, and I was dealing with a family issue. So I was sitting around, and I was like, "Hey, I want to do something that used to bring me joy." And I remembered comics, so I had an iPhone. I searched for comics. I found podcasting, and so I just sort of listened to people talking about comics, which got me excited about it again. Got a pull list. Started thinking about making comics. I had pitched a few comics to publishers. Those didn't work. Found out about Kickstarter. Decided to go out on my own. And around the time that I would have done my first Kickstarter, I walked into the neighborhood pool where I live, and there was a guy sitting there that was checking everybody into the pool, and he had a huge 11x17 board, and he was leaning up against it, and he was drawing on it, and that was Noah. So as I was getting ready to check in, I was like, "Hey, what are you drawing?" So he turns the thing, and I see this awesome thing that he's drawn on a page, and I'm like, chances are, I'm here right now. I'm a guy that's in the comics. He gave me his card. I gave him my card, and we've been friends and making comics for about 6 years from now. And again, we talked about it earlier. So the connection I made with Noah has now transferred to a connection and friendship that I have with Chris. That's we're all friends, but it really sort of what we talk about, I would guess 80 to 90% of the time is comic books and art and stuff like that. So, yeah, so that's my story in like 3 parts, childhood, getting back into it, meeting Noah, which sort of a person that I connect with really well, that has been a creative partner for about 6 years now. So 3 parts to my story there.
Nice. And then, of course, now we get to move into Chris.
Yeah, so here comes the long story. They're all laughing because they know I'm not lying. So the quick childhood rundown is basically I grew up in a small town in Ohio. Got a couple comics here and there from a 7-Eleven. It was really the only place that had comics. They weren't an option, nothing sequential, anything like that. A couple hand-me-down books, nothing big, but a lot of like Saturday morning cartoons, G.I. Joe, Ninja Turtles, things like that. Got a job. My parents divorced when I was really young. I ended up getting a job when I was still in middle school. So I kind of grew up faster than some people and didn't have time for a lot of things. But we moved to Virginia in 1999. I started playing competitive paintball back then, traveled all around, did all that kind of stuff. Basically right up until 2007 when the economy crashed. A buddy of mine had you'd call it now a TBI, but back then they didn't know what to call it. He just had a head injury. But our employer at the time, because we were both sponsored paintball players, was like, hey, we can only keep one of you on the payroll. The other one we got to let go because the team's not around and there's no money anymore because everything's going under. And knowing that he couldn't probably find a job as easy as I did, I left. I became a police officer shortly there afterwards. And I did that up until 2010 when I got injured. I got injured in a training accident. As a result of that, I retired in 2012. 2015, I lost my leg. But right around 2012, after one of my spinal cord surgeries that was related to my leg injury, I got a copy of The Winter Soldier as a hardcover, as a gift while I was in the hospital recovering. And we had just moved to Harrisonburg, Virginia from Charlottesville. And that's my now wife, but at the time who was my girlfriend. And I mean, I knew hardly anybody. I think I knew like 3 people in this town. And I didn't have anybody. I was super depressed, because I was going through I kind of quasi lost my job because I was waiting for the retirement to kick in, but I wasn't working. I didn't know anybody. I was alone. And, all I basically did was go to the doctor, and I read this comic and I just loved it. Like, it was an immediate click because whoever got it for me knew I liked the Marvel movies. But I got the comic, and then what happened is I enjoyed it so much that I had found out there were more in that run, that Brubaker run. So I started just going by myself, hobbled up, in leg braces, on crutches, and a cane and a walker to all the different comic shops I could find. And I just found single issue copies of all the comics. And it kind of, in a weird way, saved my life. Like, it gave me motivation. It gave me something to do, but it also introduced me to all these different people. And then Sam came around as a result of, at the time, I was teaching in an after-school program. And in that after-school program, one of the kids I taught, he was on the spectrum. And he was a very good visual learner, but not a very good verbal learner. So when it came time to have the amputation surgery done, I only had a 20% success rate. My nerve damage was pretty bad, and at the time, they'd only done the surgery on 5 other people. So nobody knew how it was going to turn out for me. So I basically quit my job because I didn't know if I was going to ever walk out of the hospital kind of deal. But for those wondering, I walk very well. I actually was the first amputee with my surgery to run. And I only did it once. Actually, technically I did it twice, but I fell the second time, and then we realized I couldn't do it. But 9 people later, she actually is trying out for the Paralympics. So they got real good real fast with that. But the fact is since I didn't know what was going to happen, and he didn't know why I wasn't going to be his teacher, I wrote him a story, and I wrote him Superior Sam. Because when I tried to find him a book, all I found were medical journals and biographies and autobiographies, and not something for a 7-year-old kid with autism is going to understand. So I wrote him a story. That story became a kid's picture book. Then the publisher embezzled all the money, closed up, fled to Canada. Luckily, I still owned everything that I created. So as long as I didn't use anything they did, I still owned it. So I was able to revamp Sam as a comic in 2016. And since then, I've been publishing, or now I'm with Matt and Ageless, but I've been making it as an independent, comic book basically. So we do 1 to 2 issues a year since 2016.
You are a fucking fighter, dude. Like, dude, how many people would have given up 1,000 fucking times before here we are, issue fucking 10? Dude, way to go.
It's weird because the biggest problem is, so my nerve disease is complex regional pain syndrome, and I know it's become a lot more common, but back when I was diagnosed, it wasn't. It wasn't a very common thing. It's got like 50-something symptoms. Like, you have to have so many out of the list, and they can vary and everything. There's a type 1 and a type 2. The problem is nobody talks about it because most of the people with chronic pain disorders, they end up, I hate to do it like that, but, it's suicide. It's the most common thing. So you don't hear people talking about what it's like to live with a chronic pain disorder. And I mean, I got super depressed. Like, I'm married now, but like my wife and I were still dating, and I was like, you got to go. This is not a good thing for you. And she ultimately did. But I mean, it was weird because, like, I tell people my life is kind of 2 parts. There's my pre-injury and my post-injury life. My pre-injury life is, kind of like all my cop friends and, my immediate family and things like that. My post-injury life is all my comics friends and creator buddies. And, it's kind of where my life is now. And that, I enjoy both lives. It's always weird when I meet people like that have never seen me do something, but then I meet someone that has. But what I enjoy about it the most is I overcame what happened to me. I go around and I talk, normally pre-COVID, I would go around and I speak at schools and I talk about anti-bullying and judging people based on appearances and the comic. But the comic still, even, COVID, during COVID, it's given me an opportunity to still kind of address, that idea of different is okay. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, or anything. You're still a human being at the end of the day. So
it's funny though that, like, I mean, there's all that pain, there's all this like difficult, and a lot of times that would have spun into something really dark, like something Punisherish.
Don't worry,
And
I
then,
got super dark on the DL. Like, we just don't publish.
I'm not sure.
But I
have no doubt.
It's something I've told people. I will never probably do a biography. Like, and I don't think I'm famous enough that anyone would do an autobiography, but I'll never do one because, like, my police career is crazy. Like, you would not believe some of the things that I've been into and I've seen. And, like, my personal life is kind of wild. Like, I have just dumb lucked into a lot of, like, things that shouldn't happen. But then at the same time, like, I'm incredibly grateful for everything that I have and I've been through as well. And the one thing that I always take away from my injury is that nobody else got hurt. I'm the only person of the 20-something people that are at that firearms range that got hurt. And, that's a big deal to me because nobody else, has to go through what I had to go through. So.
Yeah. It's funny because I think a lot of us would be quite different. We'd be like, really? Like, why the fuck did it have to be me? Like, or why couldn't you have just hurt a bunch of people a little bit? Like, spread some of that pain around a little bit instead of just taking out this motherfucker,
I feel like I have those moments where I'm like, seriously, like, I won the genetic lottery kind of deal to unlock a dormant nerve disease and everything. But it's also like, you know what? I've seen some of my coworkers that were there. They've gone on to have successful careers. Some of them have retired out now. Others of them have had families from that. I don't know if any of this would have existed, short of that. So, and I don't know if the life I would have been on is the same as, like, I loved being a cop. It was one of my favorite things to do in the world. I love meeting people. And as you can tell, I love running my mouth. But, like, at the same time, comics still gives me that creator side of it. Like, I still get to meet people. I still get to talk to people. Because I'm at a point where I could actually probably just sit at home. I don't have to go into. So I run a comic book shop, as you heard, and I don't have to go in and do that. I do that because I want to. I actually don't even get paid. Like, I just hung around the comic shop so much that I ended up being the first customer. because I thought the place was getting robbed. The door was propped open, the money was laying on the counter, and here comes like, I can make this joke, but like here comes Cripple Chris, like, yo, this is a comic shop. The door's unlocked, the lights are on, there's money all over the counter, but there's nobody in here. And I'm like, hey, everything okay? And the guy,
right.
Steve, was like, oh yeah, I'm just in the back. What's up? I was like, you got like $1,000 just laying on the counter here, and the door's unlocked and propped open partially. He's like, oh shit. And I became the first customer, and then I was like, you know what? Like, we started off, we were a really small shop. We didn't even get enough books. So I would go around because I knew all these comic shops from years of hunting now. I'd be like, hey, do you have like 5 extra copies of this book I can get to bring to my LCS? So I would buy 5 extra copies, usually at cost or just below cost, and then, at retail, and then bring them back, and we would sell them. And then I did it so much. He's like, you just want a job here because you do this all the time. I was like, yeah, sure, because I'd have to go in every Wednesday to drop off all the books that I bought.
Well, and by that point, you didn't steal $1,000. You put your own money into that. He kind of almost owed you a job. Like, you're pretty fucking trustworthy at that point.
Well, I mean, it is weird. Like, you don't run around to people like, and I'm not saying like I'm special, but like, you don't run around to a lot of, retired ex-cops that, like actually enjoy things and are personable still. Like, you don't always run into that, or like have a retail background at the same time, so they don't mind dealing with people still. So
there's a question though, because I found like I know a lot of military people who are way into comics and whatnot, and a lot of the times it seems to be because it's really nice. Like, fuck reality. I've dealt with that enough in my life. It's really nice to have that fantasy. Do you see the same thing from officers? Is there a lot of that, whether they talk about it or not? Do you see a lot of like retreating into fantasy worlds, enjoying that sort of stuff? Or are you an outlier?
I'm kind of an outlier. I mean, I've always been an outlier in my department, like not even getting into politics, but like I don't fit the normal comics, like, the normal law enforcement background kind of thing. But most of my coworkers, like, they would watch like the movies, but like the collecting side of it, that's not their thing. Most of my coworkers, they were farmers. They go to church every Sunday. Like, I'm the guy going to like Warped Tour still and going to like paintball tournaments, So like it was really different for me from them. Also, I was one of the youngest officers ever hired by my department. I was still 20 when I got hired. I wasn't even 21 yet when I was actually officially. I turned 21 in the police academy. So I was really young. So my nickname was Baby Cop on the street because I looked so young. I mean, I looked so young and so small. I got mistaken as a cancer patient once. That is not a joke. That's a hilarious story, true story. But like,
wow.
One of the things that always connects with cops and comics is the Punisher. And I could talk about this for a while, but like, you see the Punisher logo all the time in law enforcement. And it was weird because like, I always liked Captain America. I always liked the movies, and like that was my kind of intro. And I kept telling people, I'm like, I read comics as a kid. Like, Punisher, like if you have a choice between a cop with a Punisher tattoo and a cop with a Cap Shield tattoo, I always tell people, you run to the one with the shield. He's going to probably treat you better than the one with the Punisher logo. And I'm not knocking the law enforcement officers, like, but I mean, that's the truth of it. Like, think about what these two stand for, but also remember, the Punisher's idol is Captain America. Like, and you think about that scene in Civil War where he's like, no, just, and Steve Rogers just pummels him because he knows he can't hit him back because he's right.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's really weird thing. Like, but we can talk about that for hours. That's a whole nother like politics.
It's funny. It's funny because during 2020, when there was the riots and everything, they kind of did this thing, and actually even the creator of the Punisher did a thing where he was kind of taking back the symbol. And I actually got to be a part of a small group that wrote a 2-page story of a new Punisher. I
really liked the Rosenberg run because he's got that one issue with that one line where he's like, I am not your role model.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's been that way for decades. I think too many people see like the faults in the legal system and him as a simple solution.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, as someone who's worked within it, the system, there's a lot of room for some fixings. I mean, lots of them. There's lots of problems. But it's not that simple of a solution. Like, the right way to the wrong way isn't there. The Punisher even knows he's not right. Like, he talks about in many issues that, he's not the role model. Like, the way he does things is not the right way. It's just the way he knows how to do things.
Yeah, there's such a misunderstanding with that, because like if you were a dirty cop or if you were abusing your
you're done.
ability, Frank would have no qualms about popping you right there.
He rolled through and welcome back Frank. I mean, that Marvel Knights run.
Oh yeah.
He's got no problems with that when he's finding people on the take and everything. But it's weird too, because like I see why they identify with them. I wish they would identify with, like I had a coworker who was a big Batman fan. Batman's a very applicable person to idolize as a cop. Like, no real actual super strength. We can argue about how much like things Batman's injected to be what he is, but like no powers, just suits, technology, and gadgets and things. So but there's different characters I think would be better role models. So I have yet to meet someone who's a Maria Hill fan, so that's probably a real good thing. Nobody in law enforcement is like, I like Maria Hill, and I'm like, oh no, we've taken one step further. But
So, all right. So, getting into the Punisher and whatnot, and trying to bring in the whole team. I do love your story, by the way, Chris, and thank you for sharing it. It means a lot to me. If you guys each got a one shot, you have a one shot. That's it, and one character. You know what I mean? Who's it going to be? From any universe, anywhere, who is that one character in that one shot that you're going to want to, that's going to be your take?
I'll go first. I would do Spider-Man. I actually already have the title. It's called Spider Nonsense. It's when his spider sense is flipped. So whenever he's not in danger, the spider sense is going off. And when he's in danger, the spider sense turns off. So like he's constantly like, if he goes to get coffee with like Norman, his spider sense is going off and it sort of like wears him down. But then when he's like in battle, he's like calm. So that's my one shot. Spider Nonsense.
I like that. It's almost like living with a migraine sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like someone who has constant. That's cool. I like that take, Matt. That's really neat. Chris, what about you?
So I would probably do Captain America.
I really wanted you to say Punisher just to fuck around, but good call.
Well, I was up there too because like I like X-23 a lot as well, and I mean she's fairly ruthless as well. And I'm also a Damian Wayne and a Jason Todd guy, so. Like I got no gambit of like characters that have no problem, but I'm a huge Cap guy. Like if you can't see it probably, but like that's my leg. That's an Alex Ross Cap on there.
Oh, that's so cool, dude.
I always told people I'd love to do a Cap story kind of with S.H.I.E.L.D. mixed in, where basically like Maria Hill got into some trouble or something, and she's tying everything in essentially, but Cap is like her big witness. He's relaying a story from like World War II with Faustus and things like that. And then somehow Maria Hill just gets away with a murder. But because, Cap is the witness and everything, he's like, well, clearly she couldn't have done what she did. But it's something she had done like years and years ago, like implanted, and it went off. Like, I love the idea of an espionage kind of Cap Maria Hill story. So
nice. Noah, what about yourself?
I have this idea for a Superman story where, and this may have been done already, and there's been so many Superman stories, but where he's been like shot out of the sky with a kryptonite bullet of some sort, and lands in this, like this small inner city sort of borough, and not necessarily in Metropolis, not necessarily in like anywhere but it's just sort of this like rundown sort of slum. And the people there sort of take him in and try to get him healthy again But in the meantime, whoever shot him out of the sky, I don't know what villain it would be, if it's Lex Luthor, or if it's somebody like, Metallo or somebody like that, is searching for him, and they're having to hide him while this guy's going around and possibly going to kill everyone in the town. But they have to protect Superman because he's an inspiration and all that stuff. So it kind of goes into this sort of community and how they are inspired by Superman and the sacrifices he's made to sort of protect him and everything. Mine's very serious, but I'm very tired, so I don't know. It's sort of like I
love that pitch, Noah. Dude, I think that's a really cool, like a kind of a depowered Superman hiding in like a Hell's Kitchen kind of thing. I fucking love that idea.
Yeah, I also just think, and
I'm not a Superman guy, so
yeah. I always think that Superman works best when the situation around him is complicated and not him being complicated, So Superman, everybody sort of sees him as the character that no one wants to write because he's not complicated enough. But I just sort of feel like that's the greatest challenge of all, is to write a character that's just very cut and dry, but put him in a situation that's really complex and involves a lot of things that sort of test his abilities in a lot of ways. So I also think there'd be a nice ticking clock in that story, But yeah.
Well, I just saw Jim Lee chatted. Jim Lee just chatted in the comments that he needs Noah's contact information.
Yeah, I need to.
Right. Yeah, Jim. And you know what's funny is that I'm like, yeah, okay, Jim Lee's watching this, but I've actually had a couple of kind of cool people. Like, I was interviewing Matt Hawkins, and then all of a sudden, Stefan Sejic is in there grilling us and asking, and I'm like, oh shit, this is happening. So yeah, I was like, Jim Lee, there's no way. And then I'm like, you never know. Like, it's weird. Sometimes people show up like it's funny. But Noah, I fucking love your pitch, because I'm not a Superman guy, but I would read the fuck out of that. That sounds really cool, and I think that's a really neat idea. So good on you, man. Keep that, like, do something with that pitch, because you never know. Like, if you get that shot, that would be a really yeah, absolutely. For me, it's I'm a huge Wolverine fan, but like, his stories have kind of been done to death. So what I would like to do as a hardcore fan is, and I think I've said this before to people, he actually has a foster daughter, Amiko.
Yeah.
And I would like to use her, and her foster mother is Yukio, the Ronin. And I would like to use them as like a Batman and Robin sort of thing, only Amiko ends up getting mutant powers. So she's the more powerful of the two. And then you've got Yukio always trying to rein her in, and it's like, how do you rein in this dog that can pull you? So I thought that was a really fun idea and something I could play with.
Did you ever read the closing arc to Batman and Robin by Tomasi? Yeah. Where Damian gets superpowers, and Batman basically has to deal with Damian with superpowers.
Oh, wow.
That would be rough.
It is fantastic. Because, like, look, I told you already, I'm Damian biased as all can be. But, like, that kid's arrogance is on a whole nother level once he has superpowers. Like, you didn't think he could get more conceited? Watch him walk into a bank robbery where they're all shooting at him, and he's like, what's that gonna do?
I have a very dark Wolverine, no pun intended, pitch. I always wanted him to wake up with somebody had sewn babies over his knuckles, and they're constantly like trying to make him mad, to like make him pop his claws, and he's like, no, I can't do this because there's these babies sewn to my knuckles, and it's just people just like egging him on, like, oh, and just trying to make him mad and trying to make him,
I'm just trying to think which villain would do this.
You did that one. That sounds like that comic sounds like a zine you'd sell at like an indie comics thing. I mean, maybe Marvel will get to the place where they're that desperate for stories, but I think that would really kill in the indie comics.
It sounds like a Preacher crossover, is what it really sounds like.
Yeah, that's a very Preacher storyline. Yeah.
That's good though. That's yeah, that's nicely fucked up, Matt. I like that a lot. So going back to Superior Sam and what you guys are doing, are you guys on Kickstarter right now? Has it launched?
Yeah, we're live on Kickstarter. We've got 12 days left, I think and we're just over $1,400 towards our goal. Our goal is 2,000. So
great.
We're on a pretty good trajectory right now. So
congratulations! If you guys can put the link in the chat. But guys, please check out Superior Sam. It does sound like a really cool book, and of course, so much that you guys are we able to get the other books in this Kickstarter?
Yeah, so there's a couple cool like catch-up tiers. So there's a physical catch-up tier and a digital catch-up tier. Yeah. Both of them include either the trade paperback, which is 1 through 7. You'll get a physical copy of 8 and 9, or technically 9 is a standalone issue, but you'll get a physical copy of each of those or a digital. But you can get all caught up in just one tier. Plus, we also did a Moss Vale tier where you can get the new copy of Superior Sam and the first issue of Moss Vale as well. So you can actually get both all ages books that Ageless puts out in one tier as well.
That's fantastic.
You can either do like the Sam catch-up, or you can do like the Mossville all ages catch-up tier.
And to add on to the Mossvale, for anybody that has that sort of collector's gene where you have to have them all, the Mossvale that we're offering here is a variant cover, which is drawn by Noah. So if you did Mossvale before, and you got the regular like larger scaled large print book that we did before, this one's going to be different. It's going to be regular comic book size, but it's going to have a variant cover, and it's an awesome cover that Noah did. And we had our colorist from Dino Thrashers come back, and it's pretty kick ass. So
yeah, the cover is dope. Like it was, it's a great cover.
Good call. That's cool. So in Ageless, do you guys tend to do a lot of all ages books?
That's just sort of the way that it has started off. It was never really the plan. Actually, all the books that we have, Noah has brought my way, either being contacted by a writer or having a friend that was working on a comic that he brought. It's never sort of the intent that we had, but it's just sort of the way that it shaped out. In the future, we might offer something that's a little bit more hard sci-fi, a little bit, more action based, a little bit more grown up. But right now, that's just sort of the way things have shaped out. And I think it's good to get young readers into comics, because if you look at this collection of older white guys that are on here, we need younger people into comics. So I think that's very important. So I do see that in the chat. There was a question. I think Brian might have missed how Sam came about. So if Chris wants to do that again real quickly, that might be helpful.
Quick. Let's let him know how that happened.
So after I retired from the police department, I was teaching an after school program. One of the kids that I taught for almost a year and a half, he was on the spectrum. He's a very good visual learner, but not a very good verbal learner. So when I was leaving to have my leg amputated, due to the unlikelihood that I might be able to ever walk or have a job again, he didn't understand. I quit my job, and he didn't understand why I wasn't going to be his teacher. So I tried to find him a book that could explain a traumatic amputation to a child. Couldn't do it. So I wrote him what became Superior Sam as a story, because he was, like I said, a very good visual learner, but not a very good verbal learner. So
good call. No, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And Brian, no problem, man. We appreciate you checking us out. Yeah. And thanks for asking. Yeah. No, it is, dude. He's got a very cool story. Go back, and if you can listen to his origin story, I mean, all of them. But especially the shit that this guy's been through. Holy fuck.
I still somehow managed to get into a lot of shit.
Well,
It seemed to end for me.
so, and you know what? That's a really good segue into for all three of you. What do you think the future has in store? So Noah, let's start with you. What are the next kind of projects that you've got coming up that we're gonna see your name on?
So this will bleed into Matt's really well. Right now, I'm the letterer on Metal Eagle, and I'm doing a short story in the third issue of that book. Metal Eagle is going to be really cool, so I'll let Matt pitch that. But I'm also lettering Matt's other book, Dying Days. Metal Eagle is going to be through Source Point Press. Dying Days is going to be through Red 5 Comics. Look for those next year. My name will at least be on the inside cover, which will be cool. So,
Yeah,
then besides
letter editor, we never get on the front cover.
yeah, we're the unsung heroes who make the book come together. If it
Hey,
wasn't
don't
for
forget
us,
about
the
those
whole
inkers,
industry
man.
would crumble.
No, that's very untrue. I've seen the prototypes of 1 and 3, and I know that you're listed. So that's very untrue.
on the front cover.
Yeah.
Oh, way to go! Way to break some stigmas there. Good job, Noah.
Yeah, well,
Right.
certainly with 3, because you have a short that you're drawing, which is would indicate that. But yes,
I'll show people my scribbles for the. You can interpret that. Ooh.
Yeah, let's do this here. Let's put you on solo and let's see what you got going on.
Yeah, can you interpret that? Oh, those scribbles,
Yep.
because that's my short story right there. Not the finished, obviously, but those are my thumbnails.
I was gonna say, way to go, buddy.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, anybody can do it. Isn't that great? No. Those are my thumbnails for it. I actually needed to sit down and draw it. I've had it in my mind for the last couple months, so just need to do it. But then besides that, I've got I'm going to be doing a short, possibly in an anthology here soon. And I've got another comic in the works too, with a friend. So I'm got a couple things coming up. So hopefully you'll be seeing more of me in the future.
Well, good for you, and guys, congrats on Source Point and Red 5. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Matt.
Yes. So Noah said that this was a lead-in. Noah is lettering those 2 books that I have coming out. Metal Eagle is a story where the CIA decides to make a heavy metal band to travel around Eastern Europe to do sort of spying missions in the late 80s to early 90s. Hair metal is sort of on its way out. Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana is about to hit. So the days of glam rock and heavy metal are on their way out, but they're going around, pretending to be a band and doing spying missions at the same time. So that's the book from Source Point. That's 4 issues. We're halfway through drawing. Or not drawing. Gonzalo Rodrigo. I'm sorry, I didn't say his last name right. Gonzalo Rodriguez is drawing that, and he's like 3 issues through that right now. So we should have that done in about 3 to 4 months. Dying Days is the Red 5 book, and basically people are inflicted with sort of a virus or a disease where people start aging very quickly. So there's a race against time, and as things go on, the older you get, the harder it is to sort of deal with the physical limitations and stuff that you have. So that's the Source Point. I'm sorry, that's the Red 5 book. So working on those, trying to get those ready, and there's an anthology story that might involve a boy that doesn't want people to grow up in an elder god, which I think a lot of people here are going to be involved in. Those are the things that I have working on right now.
Also, Moss Vale issue 2 is coming. We've got pages. I've seen pages for issue 2, and I'm going to be lettering and designing that book again. Travis Wells will be writing and drawing everything, and hopefully Matt will be publishing. So Moss Vale 2 should be out. We're hoping next year, but this is a book that takes a long time to put together, so I'm not putting any kind of like rough timestamp on it. So, but it is coming. Travis is putting out some really cool stuff.
Yeah,
Cool.
Travis does everything. Like the coloring is all like markers. Like I'm amazed sometimes. I feel like sometimes I look at it and I feel like it was done on a computer, but he's doing those all with markers. It's pretty amazing.
Just
That's
amazing.
badass. All right, Chris, what are we going to see from you soon?
Well, hopefully you'll see this Superior Sam issue we got on the Kickstarter right now. I've got a couple more Superior Sam issues lined up. There's actually I've got like 14 either synopsises or scripts kind of ready to go. I haven't really worked on anything side project wise in a while, but the only other thing that I have going is I wrote like a novel over the pandemic like so many other people did. Didn't like the way it came out, so I've been adapting it into like a comic book format. So I've got 5 out of the 6 issues fully scripted for that. So whenever I get done with this and I have some time, I'll probably finish that and then try to see if I can find any artist or somebody who maybe wants to work on the book. So
That's cool, man. I will tell you something that we did over the Sarah, what's going on, hon? Something that a buddy and I did over the pandemic was we decided to write a novel, and we'd actually tried to do it in 2018 for NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, and realized, we're way too fucking busy. And then it came to 2019. We're starting to get to 2019, and he says, let's try this again. And I was like, we're even busier this year than we were last year. Like, are you serious? You think we're gonna get a novel done in a month? And he's like, no, you're dead right. You're totally right. So instead, what we ended up doing was we turned it into a serial podcast. So a chapter would come out every 2 weeks, and that chapter, those chapters ended up becoming a novel. And so now we've got one novel out, and we're halfway through the next one. And that was a lot of fun. So I would say, if you plan on doing a novel and you want something that you can kind of like pace out and do without having to completely change mediums, because obviously the difference between comics and novels is just a giant chasm.
yeah, I mean, I got to admit though, I actually enjoy it as a comic a little more.
Yeah, good.
I had a lot of people that I gave it, like Noah's read it, or I'm pretty sure Noah's read some of it.
I can't
it
read.
got kind of a train wreck in the second half, but I think I figured out a pretty good way in the comic format to fix that. So I've been enjoying that. But I will also say this, like global pandemic, I wasn't as busy as I am now. Like pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, however you want to, I am way busier now than I was. Like that was one of the reasons that I went to like Noah to about Ageless, was because I was like, look, I really want to keep doing this, but I also don't have all the time, to do all of this as well. Because I literally am the guy running the whole comic shop, and then my mother owns a bookstore. So when I'm not there, I'm usually having to do something for her as well. Plus, I maintain the whole house because my wife works full time. So we've got some needs.
So, because your mom runs a bookstore, has literature been a big part of your life all the way through?
Yeah, my family's been big readers the entire time. I'm not the biggest reader. I never was. I had a lot of issues in elementary school with my eyes. I had a lot of vision problems, and those still somewhat persist. But no, books have been there. My mom started working in bookstores for Walden Books back in the day. I mean,
Damn.
Yeah.
You worked at a KB Toys and your mom worked at a Walden Books?
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's my whole childhood in 2 stores. Man.
Yep. I worked for a KB Toys. My mother worked for Walden Books.
You guys are dinosaurs. You're so cool.
Yeah. I worked for Sears at one point too, and so did she.
Oh man, it's kind of weird to think that.
His dad owned a Spencer's Gifts, and a brother had a Toys R Us, like was a manager at Toys R Us or some shit. Like they were hitting the gamut.
It was all your fault. That's why they all went out of business.
Yeah, there's all that poor planning and bundle packs they decided to push on everybody.
Comic shop and bookstore, I'd be doomed. Yeah, right.
So it's funny, like, so it's really weird because, like, the days like when I work for my mother, I like people are like, oh, do you have this book or this book? And I'm like, look, I don't read books. And they're like, what? And I'm like, you see those 3 shelves over there, those niche shelves of comic books? That's what I do in this store. That's what I'm like here to set up. Like I do the ordering for those and the shelving for those. Oh, and that true crime section back there, I'm pretty good at too. Like I know most of those as well. But like, you want, the New York Times bestseller for this month? But I also have a nerve disease, so reading books is very long and very difficult for me. That's why I like comics. Because if you're somebody with a shorter attention span or you have some problem like that, comics are great because you don't get frustrated when you can't read a word or you can't get through a page. You just look at the picture, figure it out, go to the next page, and you finish it and you feel like you accomplished something still.
Yeah.
Books, I read the same pages over and over and over again. So like they take me months to read. Like right now I'm doing the best I've ever done since I got hurt, and I'm currently on my 4th book of the year.
Oh, good for you.
I read like, picture books either. Like I read real books. So,
yeah, same here. We weren't going to call you out, though. We weren't going to be like, are you just reading some old Winnie the Poohs? Like, is that what's happening over there, Chris? Like, nobody was going to call you
out. I won't lie. I did have to do Sandman, the Audible, the book on CD. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan of the art in Sandman, but the book on CD made it much more enjoyable for me. So I actually was able to read something, get something in that I don't really like the art for. So
yeah. Sarah said, got all the Vampire the Masquerade Clan novels when a Walden's was near me in the late 90s, gave them all away, and now people are selling them for a shitload per book. Fuck that noise.
My mom once did a book signing with Anne Rice.
Oh, wow.
And I guess it was a big deal at the time because, like, Interview with the Vampire, all that stuff. But somebody came in recently to her store with a box of books, and they're like, here, they're all signed. I don't want them. And one of them was an Anne Rice book, and she's like, you know how much money this autograph is worth? I'm like, yeah. But then again, it's like when I bought my Jack Kirby autograph off a customer. Brought in this box of huge keys, and my buddy looks at me and goes, why is that horribly cheap Captain Victory comic in this box of $1,000 books? And I was like, $10, signed on Kirby on the first page.
Yeah.
$10, signed on Kirby on the first page.
That's so cool. It's funny. There's an antique, like a little town where it's all built around antiquing.
That's all to this area.
Yeah. So my mom, whenever she comes down here, she loves to go check it out. But right away, when she goes into these stores, she's like, look, I'm not going to buy anything because this is an antique area, which means they know how much their shit is worth. So I'm excited to learn the history and look at it, but I'm not buying anything. And I was like, okay, cool. I didn't give a shit about antiquing, but I'm, it's her mom, and she's not down here very often. Like my family's in Canada, I'm here in Texas, so it's nice to spend time with her. But she looks at me, she goes, hey, they've got comics. And I was like, cool, that's neat. She's like, they probably don't know what they've got. And I was like, oh, woman. Okay. All right. She's like, go see what you can do. I was like, oh, yeah, baby, I got this. So I went in there.
Well known in this area for, like, I know where all the comics are and everything. So, like, I have, like, the honey holes and the things like that where, like, I share them occasionally with people. But I have this used bookstore where I live where the owner likes me. Like, he knows my mom owns the bookstore in town. Like, it's a weird thing. He knows I also write a kid's comic. Like, his son, though, hates me. I've never talked to him. I've never had to deal with him. Anytime I come in the store, like, if I pull out my cell phone to take a picture of a book to send it to a buddy to go, hey, do you need this? Hey, man, we don't allow that in here. Put that away. No check and price. I'm like, just send a text message. I don't need a price check.
Well, And
well, like it's
well,
every time I do anything. Like if I walk, like, hey, I'll hold those up here, just in case. And I'm like, I got one leg. I ain't running away.
right?
How many one leg? Like I only know one other amputee where I live. Like, and he's way older than me and noticeable. Like there aren't that many of us. If I steal it, like you're gonna know it's me. Like,
Right. Well, so when I was there, I'm slipping through.
Sarah,
I'm
you
peeking.
want to talk about fun antique things?
No,
My wife is a mental health counselor. She's an intake counselor, and she deals with a lot of like people with the drug and alcohol addiction problems. I found a diagram. It's a 3D diagram of your kidney with cirrhosis from good to bad for like $5 in an antique mall. So my wife has it hanging in her office. One of her she has. But I mean, it was
wow.
the dusty, nastiest thing. The woman looking at me goes, "Why do you want this?" And I was like, "It's for my wife." And she goes, "Your wife's weird." And I was
I know, right?
like, "Yeah, well, that's why I'm married to her."
Well, I mean, my mom told me, "Hey, you got to go check this out." So I'm flipping through, and at one point I go, "Holy shit! I'm pretty sure I know what this is." I was like, Wendy, because I didn't have my cell phone on me. I was like, "Bring me your cell phone. I got to make sure this is what I think it is." And I flipped through, and I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I went and I bought this old used comic that was kind of beaten up for like $2.50. It's the first appearance of Blade, so that was a really nice pickup. Now, if you were to grade it, it's probably like a 3,
Yeah.
but it's worth way more than that fucking $2.50 I paid for it. Like,
That's a book. Like, I don't know if you ever talk with like comic collectors, but like they have that book, like where they're like, if I ever got rid of it, I would probably stop collecting.
yeah,
Like, there's always those one books, and for me, I always tell people it's my Tomb of Dracula 10.
yeah,
Because like I already traded a Punisher once. Like I had a first Punisher, and that's my biggest regret ever getting rid of. Well, like I tell people all the time, I'm like, if I ever get rid of my Tomb of Dracula 10, it better be for a book that I really want or like a medical emergency or something big. But otherwise, I'm probably never collecting again because I'm never getting that book as cheap as I got it the first time. So
yeah.
I've done that twice.
If I sell my giant size X-Men 1, either something is terribly something is terribly wrong. That's it. That's the only scenario. Something is terribly wrong. Either I'm mentally unable to make good decisions, or something is so bad in my life that it's like, fuck.
And that's how I look at it because like when we bought our house a few years ago, we moved in right before an ice storm. And we had a huge ton of tree damage and everything. We'd spent so much like buying the house, moving down here, everything like that. And my wife was like, it'd be really nice if you went down to that Comic-Con and sold a couple books and came back with some cash. I was like, oh man, but I love my books. I don't want to get rid of anything. She's like, that racist book you got upstairs? You can sell that. And what she was referring to was my Captain America Comics number 40. The original, from 1944.
Wow.
And it's the oldest book that I've ever owned. It's one of the oldest books I know most people have ever held when I used to have. But I'm not lying. The cover was straight up as racist as you could get. It was a Sid Shores cover. It was a World War II cover. But, all of the Japanese soldiers looked like yellow rats. And, it was bad. And I told my wife, I was like, you know what? I got no problem selling that book, actually. Because, she used to laugh. She's like, hey, there's people coming over. Make sure that one book's not beautiful. And I'd be like,
all she has to say is that one book, and you know exactly what she's saying.
So I walked up to a dealer buddy, and I was like, hey, I'm looking to get rid of this. And he's like, yeah, sure, throw it in my booth. We'll sell it. And some guy came up and was like, I'll give you $450 for that book. No problem. And I was like, cool. My buddy looks at me and goes, what did you pay for that? I was like, $200. And he's like, all right. But it's always fun, when I can go, if I do sell something, but that book I didn't mind selling, but when I got rid of my first Punisher, I've since regretted that one.
Yeah.
But,
see, Sarah says, I gave away my entire comic collection about 20 years ago. I cringe at all the books. the books we've lost over the years and all that. Yeah, man. There's that could fill a book. Those stories.
But that's the risk, man. Every time I've moved twice in the last year, and I've decreased my comic book collection 3 times. Every time I do it, I'm like, it's always in the back of my head. I was like, oh, this might be worth something. But then I can't think about that. Like, I just have to focus on what I love, you know? I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
as long as I have this in my collection, that's all that matters, you know?
Well, that's what I tell people. Like, you know, everyone laughs at me. Every time I hit 10,000 books, I do a decrease. I always try to have only 8,000 books in the collection. It's real tough because I've decreased a few times.
How frugal of you.
8,000.
Right.
A buddy with 40,000. Like, you go try doing his numbers. You know, like,
Right, yeah.
I'm like, you're never going to read all those again. You know, kind of, but, you know,
My LCS.
like, I give away so many books.
Yeah. My LCS has a nice buyback. Well, actually, Secret Lair had a nice buyback thing too. I could donate, and I could also sell stuff to Secret Lair, which was nice. But I mostly just gave stuff to Secret Lair and to Book Dragon. And hey. But now at Third Eye Comics, where around where I live, that's my LCS, and it's weird to call it an LCS because it's like a huge store, but they have a buyback thing where like you give like a long box or a short box, and they'll pay you for it. It's not a lot, but they still do pay you for it, and you can get store credit too, which is nice. So I've been doing that lately, which I really, so I don't feel too much like, oh, I'm just giving these like maybe possibly really valuable comics away for free. But you know,
I recently saw that store's like trade/buy rates. Wow, man, you are almost giving them away.
I know. Yeah, I am. It is. It really is. But at least I get something because. Yeah. You know, it's not bad. Like, I mean, like I said, I'm okay with giving it away for free, but I was like, hey, they're making it easy for me. Like, they don't sit there and go through all the books. You just sort of give it to them, which is nice.
Yeah, it's weird because like
I've got to the point in my collection now where I can't do that anymore. Like I do now with like what I have. If I'm gonna decrease it again, I can't just donate it. It's like I need to get on eBay or something and start selling stuff. Yeah.
So let's real quick, Chris. What's the name of the comic shop you work at? Just so to give them a shout out and a little bit of love.
I run the Secret Lair Comics in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Nice, excellent. All right, and dude, guys, thank you so much for coming by. Let's just do one final push and shout out for Superior Sam. So tell us real quick again about Superior Sam. Give us that sales pitch. Why does everybody have to go out right fucking now and grab this all ages book that I'm cursing about?
Probably because if it doesn't fund, I'm not going to write anymore.
You heard it here first, guys. Don't ruin this poor crippled man. Like, come on, people.
No, but seriously, go check out Superior Sam Presents. Everyone Needs a Home. It's a great all ages series. This issue in particular, we're talking about animal adoption and just trying to raise awareness and get people, you know, to remember that there are animals out there that needs homes just like everybody else. So, you know, next time you're in the market, you know, you need an animal or you want a pet, go look at these animals. And particularly in this story, we focus on older animals. So go look at some of these older animals. You know, they're just as great pets as puppies and kittens as well. But the whole Sam series as a whole, it's a bunch of morals and little life lessons. And like Noah said in the very beginning, one of my all-time favorite goals with this series is not to tell you what to think, but for you to have a conversation with those that are closest with you, and then you all come up together. You come to that conclusion of what's right, what's wrong, or what you believe, what you don't believe, because you had that conversation, because the book started the conversation.
That's fantastic. So, guys, go check out Superior Sam Presents right now. It sounds like a fantastic book. Try it, and hey, talk to your local comic shops. See if they can. I assume you have some retail tiers on there.
We do. Yep, there's a retail tier on there right now.
Dude, tell them about the retail tiers. Get it in there because, I mean, the kids are our future, and this sounds like a fantastic book for sharing with nieces, nephews, children, grandchildren, all that kind of stuff.
I don't have kids. I just know who the future is.
Yeah, good for you, man. That's awesome. Guys, I appreciate all of you guys for coming out. Why don't you, real quick, let's go around the room. Everybody, tell us real quick where everyone can find you. Chris, let's start with you.
You can find me on Instagram under CB Author or under Patreon at Chris Barcomb or CB Author as well.
Sweet. My man, Matt.
I'll plug Ageless Press. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Ageless Press. So just check those things out to see what we're up to.
You know what though, Matt? Plug YouTube, man. Where can we track you down?
All right. So I am on Twitter at mkoon. I am on Instagram at Matt Kund. I have a website that is mattkoon.com. So I think those are the three best places to follow me.
And your Substack. You have a Substack.
Yeah, Substack, yes.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's the first time I remember hearing you pronounce your last name, because I say Kund, which is so close to a really bad word. So Kund, I'll remember that for next time.
No worries. It's a weird last name. I wish I had a name like Jones or Smith, but it's a weird last name. But it's the one I got.
You're talking to a guy whose name looks like it's the French version of penis. So you're good, man. Like I completely get you. Noah, where can we track you down?
So I'm on Instagram under Noah C. Ray. It looks like Noah Cray, all one word, no lowercase, no uppercase, no spaces, nothing like that. I'm on TikTok. It's just that name, Noah Cray, with an extra Cray on the end. And I'm going to be posting more like process stuff on TikTok here soon. But also follow the Constructing Comics podcast on all social medias. Just look us up. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on every goddamn podcast platform. So you have no excuse if you don't listen to us. Yep. It's a really good show. I really love doing it. And we've had people like Chuck on, and Chuck's awesome. We've had people like Chris on. It's great. It's a great show.
Well, and it is a really good show. Like it's one of those shows where I'm like, when it's time for me, like we're already looking forward to Belial, and I'm like, so we're gonna get in touch with Constructing, and we're gonna make sure we got a spot on that show. And it's a really great show. I kind of feel like we kind of sort of do the same thing, where it's not just about pushing something, but it's also about getting into the creation aspect and talking about the behind the scenes stuff. And I really like that. I think that's stuff that when you're on a Kickstarter, you miss a lot of that. It's just a lot of like pushing and selling, and people get tired of that shit really quick. And I think that's why what you guys are doing is so great, because we get to really see the nuts, bolts, and really find out the gears of making comics. So I think you guys are doing great work over there.
Thanks. We appreciate it. Yeah, when we have somebody on, usually before I hit the record button, I'm like, hey, we're gonna intro you, we're gonna hit the podcast, then we're gonna do like 30-40 minutes of like making comics talk, and then certainly on the way out we're gonna hit that Kickstarter again. So we sort of give them the sort of, you know, what to expect. It's like we're gonna hit you with the Kickstarter at the beginning and at the end, but in the middle it's gonna be sort of like, you know, why you're excited about this book, you know, like maybe if you had some difficulties making the book, like what worked well, what didn't work well. So we try to do that stuff in the middle, and then on the way out, you know, one last time on the way out, we hit everything on the way out. So yeah,
I like that. It's very much inspired my own work, and what I do here is I love that the way you guys do that, and I think that's a really great way of pulling it off. So good stuff, man. Guys, keep it up, please, all of you.
Thanks, we appreciate it.
No. Guys, thank you so much, all of you, for coming out. I don't know who our guest is next week, but it's going to be good because we haven't had a bad guest here. So thank you so much, everybody. This is Chuck's Shop Talk. My name is Chuck. I give a fuck. Take care, everybody.